Hi, this is Sean, and this channel's called Wolf Dog Moon. And today we're going to be doing a review of the original Pathfinder role-playing game, Core Rulebook. If you like this kind of content, smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on our next upload, comment down below, and share with your friends. Alright, let's get into this. Okay, the Pathfinder role-playing game by Paizo Publishing is another Dungeons and Dragons style role-playing game based on the Open Gaming license. Now, this is also, I'll show you the back here. It says, "Enter a fantastic world of adventure," and so it's by Paizo Publishing, and that's the website right there. And it's compatible with the 3.5 Open Game license. So, and that's the 3.5 rules that were put out for Dungeons and Dragons. Now, we're going to get right into this. First of all, this cover is awesome. It's very evocative of the style of role-playing that you'll be doing in this Pathfinder role-playing game system. You got this awesome dragon, and I believe the artist's name is Wayne Reynolds, and you have this awesome fighter and then some kind of sorceress. So, and you got the crumbling rock of some ancient edifice statue, and it's crumbling as this dragon comes out of hiding. It's an awesome cover, and to me, this right from the word jump makes me want to play this version of fantasy adventure. So this is an awesome hardcover book. Now I'm gonna open this up for a second just so we can see when this came out. Again, you got interior the covers in the interior, and let's see if we have a date somewhere around here. So this is the Open Gaming license. So I don't know if there is a date. I know this is the original version of Pathfinder that came out. Yeah, it came out. See, copyright. Let's see, 2009. So this book came out 2009. So it starts out with these awesome illustrations of the goblins, and they got these nasty, brutal looking weapons, and they're out to pillage, purge, and do worse things than that. And so this is very evocative of the dangers you'll be facing. And goblins play important. They're like very iconic of this Pathfinder system, and also like how they're illustrated. So let's get into this. You got these awesome pictures in here. This walks you through what a role-playing tabletop game is, which most of them do. And if you've never played one before, this helps you get started. And it talks about the common terms. Because this uses the Dungeons and Dragons system, it also uses a lot of their keywords. So this walks you through that, and that's cool because it doesn't assume that you'll know them, even though this is technically a retro style. This harkens back to an earlier system of Dungeons and Dragons, the 3rd edition. Now, I grew up playing the 2nd edition and also the Red Box Dungeons and Dragons edition, and so at some point I'll probably do a review on those, because I think those are still very well worth playing, and they're really good systems and how they do things. So this walks you through stuff like the ability scores, and then you got more artwork. These look like dark elves or something, and then you got the different races, archetypes that you can be. Now, what's interesting about Pathfinder, they allow you to be half orc characters And so that's one they add. Now, I disagree with that. I don't think anyone should be playing an orc. I think an orc is an evil, you know, they even look evil and demonic. So I would cross that out right away. Sometimes when you come up with your own version, you got to make some changes. And to me, at the concept level, this is meant for you to be a hero and go on the hero's journey. And yes, you're half orc, so maybe you have to face that demonic side or whatever of your heritage or whatever, but it's a little bit too sophisticated, I think, for this type of hobby to do that. It's a little bit too much of a kind of it's getting too much in the weeds in terms of trying to make it add layers of unnecessary complexity. I think sticking with these certain archetypes, you know, the Tolkien archetypes, makes more sense. So right away, I would say that's one of the sort of points I would take off with this Pathfinder. Overall, the Pathfinders, it's pretty cool, of a retro style of Dungeons and Dragons adventure. Now you get the classes, most of the like original first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons classes. You get the Barbarian, you get a Bard, you get, you know, a Cleric or a Priest, and then so you can specify what they call it, domains in this, in terms of how you worship. And then of course they have druids, so this really sticks to the original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And then of course you have the fighter, and this is pretty badass artwork. You know, it really, you know, if you want to be a fighter, that's what you want. And then you got the monk too from the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the original first edition. So this pulls from the other editions. It doesn't just go from Dungeons and Dragons 3.0. So I think this original Pathfinder will always have a place in adventure style role playing, in the style of Dungeons and Dragons, because it harkens back to more of the original feel of the game. Paizo used to create the Dragon magazine, I think, and they used to publish these different adventures all along throughout the history of Dungeons and Dragons, going back in the 90s and stuff. And so they definitely harken back to the original feel. Now they have a paladin, so that looks like an awesome warrior paladin. And and then you have the ranger. So what's cool, and then you have rogues. Instead of calling it a thief, they call it a rogue. Now, this is kind of they have a sorcerer, which is kind of from, I think the original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons had a sorcerer too. So they have a sorcerer class in here, which is a wizard that gets their ability from their bloodline. So they get less kind of raw power over time, the wizard, because the wizard is through study and stuff. So the wizard will eventually outclass the sorcerer. So then you have, this is an image of a wizard, and you have the different schools if you want to specialize kind of thing. That's awesome artwork. And then I'm going to skip ahead here. So I think that's all the classes. And then what's interesting in here is they go into skills, and what they do is Pathfinder uses the D20 for skills, and so you're adding bonuses. Right here it has a chart here. So if you're untrained, you roll a D20, and then you add an ability modifier, and then a racial modifier if it applies. And then if you're trained, it gives you that information, and then trained in your class skill. So and this has sort of like class specific skills, So you get a +3 bonus on all class skills that you put ranks into, and you also have ones that are preferred for the class that you're in. So you're not necessarily, what's cool in this, it does give you the option to get skills outside of your class so that you can make your character unique, but it kind of gives you more of a bonus if you choose one of the preferred classes. So it holds your hand a little bit in that way, but it has a little bit of flexibility. Now overall, since I'm at this point right now, I'll just get it out right now. Pathfinder is very much like you're building a character. That's the most efficient way. That's the one good thing and bad thing about Pathfinder. You end up using these kind of, if you think of them as widgets, and you're gonna make sure you're stacking. For example, when we get to feats, I'll show you that you're going to be choosing ones that you end up enabling you to make kind of what I call Pathfinder is like, you're an adventurer, but you're the all-star version of an adventurer. So whereas like in original Dungeons and Dragons, you rolled up your character and you were, those were the stats that you had, and everybody has similar starting point and stuff. In this game, you're start off as an all-star, and you just get, as you progress, you become more and more of an all-star. Now, if you get what I'm saying. Now, the other thing with Pathfinder that's unique is it uses dice checks. So here's an example of dice checks. So the difficulty class. So the Dungeon Master will apply a difficulty class to some kind of skill or aspect in the game, such as, let's say for example, you have to climb this cliff face and it's raining outside, and you need to do that to get to the top of the cliff, and so everyone has to climb. And so here's how it would be done. So like, let's say he's gonna do a difficulty class of 20. Maybe it's an uneven surface with narrow handholds, because due to the rain, like I said, and footholds, such as a typical wall in a dungeon. Maybe he gives it a 20. So essentially, if you have a climbing skill, plus depending on what other modifiers you have, you're going to roll a 20 and add those modifiers and your skill points and stuff to that roll, and you need to get a 20 or better. So that's what Pathfinder does, and I think they introduced that in the 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons. So it goes into the dice check system, which is a little bit different. It has its strengths and its weaknesses when you do that. It's a little bit more work for the Dungeon Master in terms of, but it can be also a way that Dungeon Master can simplify things. And then everything's going to be a dice check. So the Pathfinder tries to use the D20 for everything. Now, there are good things and bad things about that. There are limitations in terms of the logic and stuff. When you're trying to do that, use a 20-sided dice and for everything in the game. So, and it's, in my opinion, when you're playing these type of games, you usually have multiple kinds of dice. You have 4-sided dice, you have 6-sided dice, you have 10-sided, 8-sided, 12-sided, and so forth. So, and plus you have percentage, and it's fun to, in my opinion, to mix in those different dice and make the game more unique in that way, rather than just trying to homogenize everything. So I would say that's one of the weaknesses of Pathfinder. It starts to take the march towards homogenizing everything, and because you're kind of like an all-star character, it starts to feel a little bit like a video game versus the original feel of Dungeons and Dragons at the concept level. So this is it's interesting in that way of what, using the dice checks and stuff for everything. Now, let's see. And then if you go further in here, so for perception, you'll do just a lot of perception checks. They have the different, dice checks that the Dungeon Master, the ranges that you'll be trying to, when you're rolling the dice and stuff. So now just going to jump ahead quick so that this doesn't get too long. Now we have the feats. Now here's where what I'm saying is you end up wanting to use these different widgets where you're combining these different feats and stuff, and each class gets feats and stuff, and you're going to want to use, really customize which ones you're going to use, and also do it in a way that's the most efficient. So you're going to be spending a lot of time on feats and try to maximize the potential of your character and how it feels. You want to be an all-star just like everyone else that's playing Pathfinder around you. You don't want to be one-dimensional. So for example, you can pick these different feats and they stack. So one of the ones that, for example, for a fighter, you just right off the bat, you'd want to choose Cleave. And then here's what it does for you. And it allows you to strike adjacent foes, which automatically that turns you into a superhuman. And then there's a greater Cleave that you can unlock after this one. And then you can stack that with some other damage boosting attacks and critical, like critical focus in combat. And then next thing you know, you're starting out with plus 12 before you even roll for damage. And so that's what I mean by the superhero nature of this game. Or not, well, I'd say all-star and right knocking on the door of video game / superhero type characters. Hold on one second. Okay, so moving forward, so we can start getting towards wrapping this up. We got different weapons that you can use. And so let's see here. So we got a wide range of weapons that you can use. This one's interesting. It has a kukri, which I always thought was cool about this system. Let's see. It's like one thing it doesn't have, and I've mentioned this in other videos, and you should check out my basic fantasy review. I've done a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition review on this channel, and I've also done other reviews and discussions on role-playing games. So please do go check those out. I think you'll enjoy them. We have a playlist on our channel and you can go through that. But one of the things I bring up a lot of times is, just as a default, these books, they should come with a katana, so that you can, this one even has a kukri. So they should have a katana, and to me, they're being cute not putting that in. And so you should always just include that at this point. And then I'm jumping ahead. So we got the spells, and then in the back here we have a game mastering section. So they call it a game master. So here we got game mastering, and it explains how to do that, how to use published adventures, and also how to go about, setting up the dice checks, and so on and so forth. So, and then, so it takes you through and setting up campaign settings and environments, and again, the artwork in here is awesome. And then it's got a magic section and stuff. So that'll pretty much wrap this, take us towards the end here. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts with the Pathfinder role-playing game. Now, just to back up a little bit, back after this came out, Pathfinder, it using the open gaming license and the retro style of harkening back to the early editions of the Dungeons and Dragons style adventuring. This eventually eclipsed the actual official Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons. They put out 4th edition. It felt more like and played more like a hybrid of a board game and a video game, and was pretty much just Dungeons and Dragons in name alone. And it had kind of devolved into a Frankenstein's monster. And so Pathfinder eventually asserted itself as the go-to style of role-playing game if you want to play Dungeons and Dragons adventure. So this definitely has an awesome place in the history of role-playing games, and I still think that this is one of the better versions to come out, especially since it harkens back all the way to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it uses compatible rules with the 3rd edition 3.5 edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, some of the things that I would take points away from this about is that, like I said earlier, I alluded to the fact that in this game you're creating an all-star version of a character. So if you think of, like, for example, one of the professional sports or whatever, there are the pros, and then there's the pros where they get to go into the all-star game and play. That's what this feels like. As you use the different feats and the skill bonuses, the goal ends up being to create a almost superhero level character, which, if that's the style of adventuring that you want to be able to do, then I would say that this is really good in that way. That if you want to be the all-star fighter or warrior, you want to be the all-star version of a wizard, then this is going to be good for you. And some of the other things I would kind of take points away for in this game is the skills. Using the D20, it can be a little bit illogical. It can kind of make the game a little bit too homogenous in terms of you're rolling the same dice for everything. There's good things and bad things about that, and you have a variety of dice in this particular D20 system, and so that it would be kind of spicing up the adventure and also spicing up just the attention span of the players and stuff, and just the fun factor of being able to use different dice and they function differently. You can incorporate percentages, such as like for the rogues and for the thieves and stuff like that. So this one kind of does away with that and tries to do everything with the D20. And then the other thing is, instead of using saving throws, this uses it simplifies the saving throws into just 3 different rolls that you have to make for your character, similar to the 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons. And one of the problems with that is it kind of devolves the classes a little bit, where originally it set the classes apart, and so this kind of moves a little bit towards the homogenization that you end up seeing in, for example, 5th edition, where all the classes and all the different characters end up feeling very, very similar, and just have a homogenized feel to it. But overall though, this original Pathfinder game still has an awesome place and still worth playing. You could do some tremendous adventures, and you might even be able to pick this up for for a discounted price, since I think they've come out with a newer edition since then. And so this also includes everything the game master needs and everything the players need. You're just missing the bestiary. Now, they put out an awesome bestiary too that you can pick up, and so something like this is awesome. And they have more than one. I think they have 3 different bestiaries you can get, and then they have these awesome campaign settings, and this is a compilation of different adventures that Paizo had put out, and they collected into this hardcover book, and it's called Rise of the Rune Lords. And then last but not least, they have an awesome campaign setting you can pick up called the Inner Sea World Guide. And what's awesome about this, and maybe I'll do a review of this especially, is it gives you the option of doing all kinds of different types of settings, from like a colonial style frontier setting to high epic fantasy setting to a kind of more Arabian style to an Asian influence style setting. So this gives you a lot of different types of settings with maps and everything, and a general overview of what kind of things would be in that campaign setting area. So this is definitely one that's worth checking out. So my final thoughts on this version of Dungeons and Dragons style adventure: I think this is one of the best ones to come out of the new, more modern versions. It suffers a little bit from the issues that I described in this video, in terms of it's being slightly homogenized. And then if you're not looking to be a superhero all-star character that's never gonna die, for example, just because you're just way too powerful, then maybe this is not for you. But if you do want that kind of thing, then this is going to be great for you. So this one is right sandwiched between the second edition of Dungeons and Dragons and some of these more modern ones, where they've devolved too much in terms of the homogenization and become more of a Frankenstein's monster. This is like it's right before that happened, and so this is a good place to start if you're looking to play Dungeons and Dragons style adventure, and for it to make logical sense, and also for the abstractions to be more grounded and stuff. So we hope that this video finds you having an amazing day. Comment down below, let us know what you think if you're still playing Pathfinder, the original edition, and we hope that you have a blessed day. Signing out.